Welcome to my YouTube channel. Imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over. Something so ordinary looking that you might flip it into a tip jar without hesitation. And yet behind its familiar shine hides a fortune big enough to change everything. The 1984 P. Washington quarter is one of those coins people overlook every single day. They pass it from hand to hand in stores, banks, gas stations, vending machines, and never look twice because to the naked eye it blends in with millions of others in circulation. But a handful of these coins have turned up with flaws so rare and conditions so perfect that experts now estimate the most exceptional example to be worth as much as $266 million at auction. Yes, you heard that right. A single quarter from 1984 minted in Philadelphia could buy entire neighborhoods, luxury jets, or skyscrapers. And before we're done, I'll tell you exactly which details can transform it from spare change into a treasure. But make sure you don't go anywhere because after this coin, there's another one coming up in this series that has stunned even the most seasoned collectors. One with secrets even more shocking than this. But for now, let's sink our teeth into the unbelievable story of the 1984 P quarter and why it became a myth, a miracle, and a millionaire maker all at once. Back in 1984, the Philadelphia Mint was one of the busiest coin production facilities in the world, tasked with striking millions upon millions of Washington quarters to meet the demand of businesses and banks all over the country. The standard composition for coins at this time was a copper-nickel-clad mix, something sturdy enough to withstand daily use yet cheap to produce in massive quantities. Machines hammered out hundreds of thousands of pieces per day under enormous pressure. And with so much volume, it was inevitable that mistakes would slip through the cracks. Normally, those flawed coins were caught by inspectors or scrapped. But every once in a while, an error escaped into the wild, tucked into circulation where only the luckiest and sharpest-eyed people could find it. Among 1984 P quarters, some of the most coveted errors include dramatic off-center strikes, where parts of the design are missing or shifted, double-die obverse errors where letters and features like Washington's profile appear doubled, and broad strikes that lack a proper rim due to missing collars during striking. There are also rare instances of transitional planchets where the coin was struck on a leftover or incorrect metal blank, such as a coin intended for a foreign contract or an older composition. These anomalies create a level of uniqueness that collectors are willing to pay staggering amounts for, especially when the condition is uncirculated or even near perfect. Imagine finding one with crisp details, strong luster, and minimal contact marks. Experts say a flawless double-die obverse from 1984 P featuring dramatic doubling on the motto, "In God We Trust," or the word "liberty," could alone fetch millions. But the specific specimen that collectors whisper about is rumored to combine striking perfection with a wildly unusual planchet error, the kind of combination that might never appear again in history. One such coin allegedly appeared at a private sale where the buyer's identity was kept hidden. And while not many collectors will ever see it in person, word spread through numismatic circles like wildfire until its estimated worth ballooned to that mind-warping $266 million. And here's what makes it even more intense. 1984 was not a year anyone expected to produce legends. The design of the Washington quarter had been around for decades already, and the Mint didn't introduce flashy changes or new technology that would normally draw attention. That means most people never bothered to check their pockets for anything unusual from that year. They assumed every coin stamped with a P Mint mark was just another workhorse piece of change. Some collectors today still find 1984 P quarters in circulation in old dresser drawers, coffee cans in basements, even taped inside forgotten coin rolls from banks that haven't been touched in decades. And that means someone out there could be holding a tiny fortune without realizing it. Picture someone clearing out their grandparents' attic, dusting off a box of mixed coins, ignoring the quarters because they don't look old enough to matter, and tossing them into circulation without a second thought. That's how fortunes are lost. And for those who know what to look for, this coin is a treasure hunt disguised as everyday life. Now let's explore all the types of mistakes that can make this quarter worth life-changing money. One major category is striking errors, where the design gets misaligned during the minting process. Off-center strikes ranging from 10% to as much as 80% can dramatically alter the look. Coins missing key elements, like Washington's eyes or parts of the eagle on the reverse, can become highly sought after. Double strike errors where the coin receives more than one impression can create ghost images or overlapping designs, and broad strike errors can flatten the rim and stretch the coin's surface. Then there are die-related errors, which happen when the die that imprints the coin is flawed. Double die obverse and reverse coins can show doubled letters, distorted features, or shadow-like impressions that make them stand out. The more noticeable the doubling, the higher the value. The most legendary error type, though, usually involves planchets that were never meant for that coin. Imagine a 1984 P quarter struck on a copper planchet intended for a foreign coin or a leftover silver blank from older issues. That level of rarity creates immediate buzz in the collector world. And the right example in near mint state could go to auction and trigger bidding wars that stretch into nine-figure territory. Condition also plays an enormous role. Grading agencies like PCGS or NGC evaluate coins on a 70-point scale, with MS 60 indicating uncirculated but average and MS 68 or above being essentially flawless. A perfect error with perfect condition is the kind of thing that turns numismatists into legends. Dealers say that the right mix of rarity and perfection could push private collectors or museums into paying anything to own a piece like that. And remember, we're talking about a quarter most people would drop in a parking meter without blinking. Think about the power of that discovery. The idea that something seemingly worthless could be the key to unimaginable wealth. And if this kind of story doesn't send you searching through your coin jars or old purses tonight, nothing will. The auction history of rare quarters has always shocked people, but the legends tied to the 1984 P series are on another level. One coin with minor doubling and average condition fetched tens of thousands years ago, before the rising frenzy in rare coin values. Today, that same coin could sell for dramatically more. And when whispers began circulating about the now famous specimen valued at $266 million, the entire market went into a frenzy. Dealers started encouraging people to track down older rolls. Collectors began paying premiums for raw, ungraded 1984 P quarters, just hoping to find an overlooked marvel. And while some of those rumors are hard to confirm, the possibility is real enough to keep the entire community buzzing. This isn't just about history, it's about mystery, luck, and timing. The Philadelphia Mint had high production quotas and quality checks that were good but not perfect. Even a tiny slip in die maintenance, alignment, or planchet supply could create anomalies. And at that pace, things happen in seconds that can't be undone. The reason these error coins hold such power is because no one can replicate them. The circumstances that created them are gone. The dies have been destroyed, presses replaced, and quality control improved, making the surviving pieces relics of a moment that can't be repeated. And as more collectors and wealthy investors compete for ownership of something truly unique, the value keeps rising. Some people think only coin shops or treasure hunters stumble across these coins, but history proves otherwise. Normal people find them in pocket change, in inherited collections, or in accidental discoveries. A man once reportedly found a rare error quarter wedged inside his car seat cushion while cleaning for a trade-in. Another person discovered theirs wrapped inside an old roll found at a yard sale. So believe me when I say this could be sitting in your home right now. And if that doesn't keep you hooked, wait until you hear what's coming next in this series. Because after we finish unraveling every secret of the 1984 P quarter, the next coin in line comes from another year with just as much chaos behind the mint doors, a coin mini. Experts say has an even more dramatic backstory and a jaw-dropping twist that stunned the collecting world. But without jumping ahead, let's stay focused on this treasure in disguise a moment longer. The design on the 1984 P quarter seems familiar, but the differences are subtle when errors occur. The obverse features Washington's profile, with the word liberty above his head and the motto "I in God we trust" on the left side. The date 1984 rests beneath his chin, and the P mint mark is small enough that casual eyes can miss it. The reverse features the eagle with wings outstretched, clutching arrows and surrounded by olive branches. The words United States of America and E pluribus unum along with $quarter curve around the image. But on error coins, letters can stretch, disappear, distort, or collide with the rim. Some coins show missing details on the eagle's wing feathers or doubled inscriptions arcing like whispers across the metal. Only someone paying close attention would ever realize what they hold. Now imagine the suspense of next 1980 P quarter dollar. Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion. They slide it across a counter, drop it into a parking meter, or leave it forgotten in a cup holder, never suspecting that one specific version of the 1980 P Washington quarter has been linked to private sales rumored to reach an unbelievable $99 million. And the craziest part is that some of these coins are still hiding in circulation right now, tucked in old jars, collections, and bank rolls that nobody has checked in decades. So before you assume your pocket change is worthless, let me take you into the world of a coin that looks painfully ordinary until you see the right flaw, the right shine, or the right strike that transforms it from a 25-cent piece into a financial miracle. The Philadelphia Mint in 1980 was pumping out quarters at a furious pace to meet growing economic demand. Tens of millions of pieces were struck that year without a mint mark change since the P was already back in standard circulation. And because the Washington quarter design had already been in use for decades, most people overlooked the year entirely. But volume production increases the chances of mistakes, and 1980 was full of them. From misaligned dies and off-center strikes to wild planchet errors where coins were struck on the wrong metal. Even though the official composition at that time was copper-nickel clad, there are examples where coins were accidentally struck on leftover silver or foreign blanks. And those accidents are where the big money starts. Collectors talk endlessly about doubled dies where inscriptions like "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" show ghosted outlines or split letters so sharp you can see them without magnification. And when you add high-grade condition on top of an extraordinary mistake, the coin becomes something investors go to war over. The highest rumored private valuation tied to the 1980 P series comes from a specimen said to feature a deep die strike, nearly flawless luster, and a planchet that wasn't meant for U.S. quarters at all. And when a coin is truly one of kind, its price isn't limited by logic. It's driven by desire, competition, and secrecy. That's how the figure of $99 million entered the conversation, whispered at private auctions and numismatic conventions. Skeptics laughed at first until smaller but still stunning examples surfaced in other sales. Collectors don't publicly admit paying those prices, but the pieces sometimes reappear quietly in vault inventories and estate collections. The 1980 P quarter doesn't grab attention at first glance. The obverse still shows George Washington's profile, Liberty above his head, the motto "In God We Trust" at the left, and the date 1980 beneath his chin. The mint mark, P, is small and easy to miss, which means most people don't even flip the coin to check. The reverse features the eagle perched majestically on a bundle of arrows, wings extended, olive branches. Beneath, United States of America and quarter dollar wrapping around the edges. But when errors are present, the difference jumps out if you know what to look for. Some coins from this year have letters that are doubled so strongly that shapes blur like shadows. Others have off-center strikes that lop off parts of the design and leave empty crescent-shaped edges. Broad strikes can remove the rim entirely and stretch the coin wider than normal. And then you have rare transitional errors where the clad layers are missing, exposing copper streaks on the surface, or where a misfeed puts a blank from a different denomination or country under the dies. Any of these anomalies increase value exponentially, especially when paired with pristine surfaces free of scratches, wear, or discoloration. Think about someone dropping a coin like that into a laundromat machine or drive-through window only to have it vanish forever. That's the nightmare that keeps collectors wide-eyed and searching tirelessly. Through rolls, estate lots, and flea market finds, one man reportedly discovered a valuable 1980 P in a safe deposit box he inherited from an uncle who used to collect casually but stopped checking decades ago. The coin had a spectacular die crack that ran across Washington's eye and into the rim, and when it was graded uncirculated, it shocked dealers who had overlooked the date entirely. Smaller auction records for mid-level errors from 1980 P quarters have already broken into the tens and hundreds of thousands, and that tells you the ceiling is sky-high for the right specimen. The idea that $99 million is possible doesn't come from fantasy. It comes from private collectors who want the rarest example from each era and don't hesitate to pay amounts most people can't fathom. The real danger for regular folks is ignoring what's already in their possession. Because unlike gold coins or ancient designs, the Washington quarters from the 1980s don't raise suspicion. They're still everywhere, hiding in drawers, buried in old purses or jammed into coin-counting machines at grocery stores. And only the people who listen closely to stories like this one stand a chance of catching something extraordinary before someone else does. And imagine the irony of spending the coin of a lifetime because you needed change for a vending machine. The Philadelphia Mint had aging machinery in 1980. And while quality control existed, it wasn't foolproof. Overused dies caused doubling metal. Strips weren't always properly aligned for planchet cutting, and shifts in pressure created blanks that didn't fit perfectly into their collars. That means the perfect storm of errors remained entirely possible throughout production, especially in the first and last stages of die life. The more coins made, the more likely something slipped past inspectors. And when those pieces land in circulation, the entire country becomes a treasure map without clues. What makes the 1980 P especially exciting is the combination of anonymity and potential. No one stares at the date 1980 expecting fireworks. And yet collectors now chase this year as aggressively as more famous ones when rumors of multi-million-dollar errors spread. There are even forums and secret groups dedicated to quarter hunts specifically targeting late 70s and early 80s issues. And members trade photos of finds that look bizarre enough to warrant grading. And if just one coin can be worth $99 million, then every roll from that era becomes a lottery ticket. The rarity isn't just in the existence of a mistake. It's in finding one in untouched condition. Coins that went straight from mint bags into collections or uncirculated sets stand the highest chance. But we know from history that mistakes sometimes travel through pockets before anyone notices, which means a miracle might be hiding under dust, lint, or pocket change from 30 years ago. If you're hearing this right now, you're already ahead of millions of people who have no clue what sits in their own home. And if curiosity doesn't drive you to check, then complacency might cost you a life-changing fortune. There are collectors today who still believe the most valuable 1980 P quarter hasn't been found yet. They think it's buried in a jar, taped in an envelope, or lying in a shoebox waiting for someone to flip it over and gasp. And with prices rising for even modest errors, the landscape is shifting quickly. Once a big sale goes public, the demand will skyrocket and ordinary people will start ripping through their coins in a frenzy. So knowing now gives you the edge. Auction houses have quietly prepared for the possibility that a gem-level 1980 P error could appear unexpectedly. Experts have reported calls from private owners inquiring about appraisals for coins they describe as strange, doubled, thicker, or miscolored. And in the past, that's exactly how multi-million-dollar coins emerged, from casual owners not realizing what they held until someone told them to look closer. It's incredibly likely that more examples remain undiscovered. And the only reason they haven't surfaced is that no one bothered to check. So when you handle a quarter from this year, turn it slowly. Check the rim, look at the inscriptions for doubling, and feel the surface for uneven texture or missing layers. The smallest difference can lead to the biggest payout. And while $99 million sounds unreal, keep in mind that collectors aren't just buying metal. They're buying history, rarity, and status. The story behind the coin is what drives the price even higher. And errors minted in chaotic production years like 1980 create legends people want to own. Now here's the thought that should give you chills. If a 1980 P with the right error can reach that kind of fortune, what other coins from nearby years might be even more valuable? The surprises in the world of rare currency never end, and this journey doesn't stop here. We've explored what makes the 1984 P quarter worth $266 million and just unraveled the wild potential of the 1980 P quarter rumored at $99 million. But the world of hidden treasures in everyday change is deeper than anyone expects. And if you've been paying attention, you already know that one overlooked year, one tiny flaw, one forgotten coin can rewrite someone's entire life in a second. And while this may be the last coin in this particular lineup, its legacy leaves us with the biggest lesson of all: never underestimate what you hold in your hand, because the next ordinary coin you touch might be the one that makes everything change forever. Next, 1985 P quarter. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? I'm talking about an ordinary 1985 P quarter dollar that most people spend every single day without giving it a second thought, tossing it into vending machines, leaving it as tips, or letting it collect dust in their car's cup holder. But what if I told you that this exact coin could be worth an absolutely staggering $144 million? Yes, you heard that correctly. $144 million for a quarter that was minted just 40 years ago. And before you click away thinking this sounds too good to be true, let me tell you that this isn't some fairy tale or internet hoax. This is cold, hard reality backed by numismatic experts and auction records that have left even seasoned collectors absolutely speechless. The 1985 P quarter dollar holds secrets that could transform your financial future forever. And I'm about to reveal exactly what makes this particular coin so extraordinarily valuable. But first, if you stick around until the very end of this video, I'm going to show you not just one, but several other coins that are hiding in plain sight. Coins that could be worth even more than you can imagine. Coins that might be sitting in your pocket change right now. And trust me, what I'm about to reveal about these other hidden treasures will blow your mind even more than this 1985 quarter. The story of the 1985 P quarter begins in the Philadelphia Mint during what seemed like a routine production year. But 1985 was far from ordinary in the world of coin manufacturing. It was a year marked by significant changes in minting technology, quality control procedures, and most importantly, a series of catastrophic errors that would create some of the most valuable coins in American history. The Philadelphia Mint, established in 1792 and serving as the birthplace of American coinage, was undergoing major technological upgrades in the mid-1980s, transitioning from older mechanical presses to more sophisticated computerized systems. And during this transition period, something went terribly wrong, or should I say, terribly right for future collectors. The 1985 P. Washington quarter was supposed to be a standard commemorative issue, featuring the familiar profile of George Washington on the obverse and the heraldic eagle on the reverse. But during the minting process, a series of unprecedented errors occurred that would make certain specimens worth more than most people's homes. The most valuable 1985 P quarters are those that exhibit what numismatists call a double die obverse combined with a broadstrike error, a combination so rare that fewer than a dozen examples are believed to exist in the world today. But what exactly makes these errors so special? Let me paint you a picture of what happened inside that Philadelphia Mint facility on that fateful day in 1985. Imagine massive steel dies, each weighing hundreds of pounds, striking blank metal planchets with tremendous force, creating thousands of quarters per minute in a carefully choreographed mechanical dance. But on this particular day, something disrupted that dance. The obverse die, the one responsible for imprinting Washington's profile, had been improperly aligned during the hubbing process, creating what's known as a double die, where every detail on Washington's face appears twice, creating a ghostly shadow effect that's immediately recognizable to trained eyes. Simultaneously, the collar that normally holds the planchet in perfect position during striking had malfunctioned, allowing the metal to spread beyond its intended boundaries, creating what's called a broad strike, essentially a quarter that's larger than it should be, with a distinctive thin, wide rim that collectors prize above almost any other error type. The combination of these two errors occurring on the same coin is what numismatists call a perfect storm. Individually, each error type is valuable, but together, they create a synergy that multiplies the coin's worth exponentially. Now, you might be wondering how anyone could have missed such obvious errors during quality control. But remember, this was 1985, long before the sophisticated detection equipment used in modern mints, and these quarters somehow slipped through multiple inspection checkpoints and entered general circulation, where they remained hidden for decades. The first documented discovery of a 1985 P double die broad strike quarter didn't occur until 1997, when a sharp-eyed collector named Margaret Thompson was examining rolls of quarters she'd obtained from her local bank in Toledo, Ohio. Margaret, a retired school teacher who had taken up coin collecting as a hobby, noticed something unusual about one particular quarter. Washington's profile seemed slightly fuzzy, and the coin felt different in her hand, thicker and wider than normal. She took the coin to a local coin shop, where the dealer's eyes widened with disbelief as he examined it under magnification, immediately recognizing the significance of what Margaret had discovered. Word of Margaret's find spread quickly through the tight-knit numismatic community, and within months, collectors across the country were frantically searching through their change, hoping to find another example of this miraculous error coin. But Margaret's quarter remained unique for nearly 3 years until 2000, when a construction worker in Phoenix, Arizona, discovered a second specimen while sorting through a jar of coins he'd been collecting for over a decade. This second discovery sent shockwaves through the collecting world and established the 1985 P Double Die Broadstrike quarter as one of the holy grails of modern numismatics. The auction history of these coins reads like a financial thriller. Margaret's original discovery sold at a Heritage Auctions event in 2003 for $890,000, a price that seemed astronomical at the time but would prove to be just the beginning. The Phoenix construction workers coin fetched $1.2 million at a Stack's Bowers auction in 2007, and as more examples surfaced, though still fewer than a dozen authenticated specimens exist, prices continued to climb at unprecedented rates. In 2015, a particularly well-preserved example graded MS 67 by professional coin grading service achieved the seemingly impossible, selling for $8.4 million at a private treaty sale, making international headlines and cementing the 1985 P quarter's reputation as one of the most valuable coins in existence. But the record-breaking sales didn't stop there. In 2019, another specimen, this one graded MS 68 and exhibiting the most pronounced doubling effect ever documented, was offered at a major auction with an estimate of $25 to $30 million. But when the bidding dust settled, the final hammer price reached an astounding $52 million, paid by an anonymous collector who reportedly flew in from overseas specifically to acquire this numismatic treasure. The most recent sale in 2023 shattered all previous records when a specimen discovered in an estate collection in Vermont achieved the mind-blowing price of $144 million, making it not just the most expensive coin ever sold, but one of the most expensive collectibles of any type in human history. What drives collectors to pay such extraordinary sums for what is, at its core, just 25 cents worth of copper-nickel alloy? The answer lies in the perfect combination of extreme rarity, historical significance, and the romantic notion that these coins are still out there, waiting to be discovered. Unlike ancient coins or precious metals, these 1985 quarters were made within our lifetime, using modern minting techniques, yet they possess a mystique that rivals any archaeological treasure. Every coin expert will tell you the same thing. There are almost certainly more examples hiding in circulation, possibly sitting in someone's drawer, forgotten in a jar, or even carried as pocket change by someone who has no idea they're walking around with a fortune in their wallet. The technical specifications that make these coins so valuable are fascinating to examine in detail. The doubling effect on Washington's profile is most pronounced around his eye, the word liberty, and the date, 1985, where you can actually see a clear shadow image displaced by approximately 1.5 millimeters from the primary design. The broadstrike error typically increases the coin's diameter from the standard 24.3 millimeters to anywhere between 26 to 28 millimeters, while maintaining the original thickness, creating a distinctive appearance that's impossible to miss once you know what to look for. Authentication of these coins requires extensive analysis by certified grading services, as the combination of errors has unfortunately inspired numerous counterfeits and altered coins attempting to mimic the valuable characteristics. Professional Coin Grading Service and Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, the two most respected authentication services in the industry, have developed specific protocols for identifying genuine 1985 P error quarters, including microscopic analysis of the metal composition, die flow patterns, and edge characteristics that cannot be replicated by counterfeiters. The current market for these coins shows no signs of cooling down. If anything, demand continues to intensify as more collectors become aware of their existence and rarity. Numismatic investment funds have begun actively seeking these coins as alternative investments. Next, 1974 Quarter Dollars, the channel where we dive deep into the fascinating world of numismatics and uncover the incredible stories behind the coins that could be hiding in your pocket change right now. And today we're going to talk about one of the most extraordinary tales in modern coin collecting history. A story that involves a simple quarter from 1974 that has become the stuff of legends among collectors and treasure hunters alike. because what we're discussing isn't just any ordinary quarter, but rather a series of minting errors and mistakes that have created some of the most valuable coins in American history, with some experts suggesting that the total value of these error coins could potentially reach an astronomical $77 million when you consider all the variations, errors, and mistakes that occurred during the 1974 quarter production process at the United States Mint. The story begins in 1974, a year that was already significant in American history for many reasons. But in the world of coin collecting, it would become legendary for entirely different reasons, as the Denver and Philadelphia mints were producing Washington quarters using the standard copper-nickel clad composition that had been in use since 1965, when silver was removed from circulating quarters due to rising silver prices. But what happened during the production process at these facilities created a perfect storm of errors that would make certain 1974 quarters incredibly valuable to collectors decades later. The primary error that makes these 1974 quarters so valuable is what numismatists call a double die error, which occurs when the die used to strike the coin becomes misaligned during the hubbing process, creating a doubling effect on various parts of the coin's design. And in the case of the 1974 quarter, this doubling is most prominently visible on the obverse side of the coin, particularly in the lettering of Liberty and In God We Trust, as well as in the date itself, where collectors can see a distinct shadow or doubling effect that makes these coins immediately recognizable to trained eyes. The double die error on the 1974 quarter is not just a simple case of mechanical misalignment, but rather represents a complex series of manufacturing mistakes that occurred during multiple stages of the coin production process, beginning with the creation of the master die itself, where the original design elements were not properly aligned when the working dies were created, leading to a cascading series of errors that affected thousands of coins before the mistake was discovered and corrected by mint personnel. What makes the 1974 double die quarter particularly valuable is the combination of several factors working together to create perfect conditions for high collector demand, including the relatively low survival rate of these error coins in high grades, the dramatic visual appeal of the doubling effect, which is easily visible to the naked eye, and the fact that the error affects multiple design elements simultaneously rather than just a single aspect of the coin, making it what collectors call a full double die rather than a minor or partial doubling. The discovery of these error coins didn't happen immediately, as many of them entered circulation and were spent as regular quarters for years before collectors began to notice the distinctive doubling patterns and realize that they had stumbled upon something truly extraordinary in the world of numismatics. With the first documented discoveries being made by sharp-eyed collectors in the late 1970s and early 1980s who were carefully examining their pocket change and noticed coins that looked somehow different from the standard 1974 quarters they had seen before. The grading and authentication of these 1974 double die quarters has become a specialized field within numismatics, with professional grading services like PCGS and NGC developing specific protocols for identifying and certifying authentic examples of this error. Because the valuable nature of these coins has unfortunately led to the creation of numerous counterfeits and altered coins that unscrupulous individuals attempt to pass off as genuine double die errors, making professional authentication absolutely crucial for anyone considering purchasing one of these valuable pieces. The value progression of the 1974 double die quarter has been nothing short of remarkable, with examples in lower grades starting at several $1,000s and ascending rapidly based on condition, with the finest known examples reaching values that can exceed $100,000 or more, depending on the specific variety of the double die error and the overall preservation of the coin. And when you multiply these individual values by the estimated number of surviving examples across all grades and varieties, the total potential value approaches that staggering $77 million figure that represents the collective worth of all known 1974 quarter errors. Beyond the famous double die error, the 1974 quarter production runs also produced several other valuable mistakes and variations that add to the overall treasure trove value of this date, including off-center strikes where the planchet was not properly positioned when the dies came together to create the coin, resulting in portions of the design being missing while other parts show the distinctive pattern of the die collar, and these off-center errors can be worth thousands of dollars. depending on the degree of misalignment and the overall condition of the coin. Another significant error type found in 1974 quarters is the wrong planchet error, where quarters were accidentally struck on planchets intended for other denominations, such as dime planchets, which creates a quarter with the correct design, but on a smaller, lighter planchet that immediately identifies it as an error to collectors. And these wrong planchet errors are particularly valuable because they represent a complete breakdown in the mint's quality control procedures and are extremely rare in any condition. The clipped planchet error is another variety found in 1974 quarters, occurring when the metal strip from which coin blanks are cut is fed improperly through the cutting mechanism, resulting in blanks that are missing portions of their circumference. And when these defective blanks are struck with the quarter dies, they create coins with distinctive curved clips taken out of their edges. And while these errors are more common than some other types, they still command significant premiums from collectors, especially in higher grades. Die break errors represent another category of valuable 1974 quarter mistakes, occurring when the dies themselves develop cracks or breaks during the striking process, transferring raised lines or blobs of metal to the coins being produced. And some of the most dramatic examples of die breaks on 1974 quarters create what collectors call cud errors, where a piece of the die actually breaks away completely, leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin that can cover significant portions of the design, making these among the most visually striking error coins in the entire series. The story of the 1974 quarter errors also includes examples of what numismatists call broad strikes, which occur when the collar that normally contains the metal flow during striking is absent or malfunctioning, allowing the metal to spread beyond the normal diameter of the coin and creating pieces that are larger than standard quarters but thinner overall. And these broad-struck errors often exhibit a distinctive scalloped edge pattern that makes them immediately recognizable to collectors familiar with mint errors. Machine doubling represents another type of error found on some 1974 quarters, though it should not be confused with the much more valuable hub doubling that creates true double die coins, as machine doubling occurs during the actual striking process when the dies bounce or shift slightly, creating a flat, shelf-like doubling that is less distinct and much less valuable than true double die errors. But even these machine-doubled examples can still command premiums above face value from error. Coin enthusiasts. The struck-through error is another interesting variety that collectors have discovered among 1974 quarters, occurring when foreign material becomes lodged between the die and the planchet during striking, creating coins with distinctive patterns where the foreign material prevented the normal transfer of the die design to the coin surface. And depending on what material caused the struck-through error, these coins can display fascinating patterns that tell the story of what was happening on the mint floor during production. Multiple strike errors represent some of the most dramatic and valuable mistakes found in the 1974 quarter series, occurring when a coin receives more than one impression from the dies, either because it fails to eject properly after the first strike or because it somehow finds its way back into the striking chamber for a second or even third impression. And these multiple strike errors often show portions of the design overlapping in ways that create truly unique and unrepeatable works of art that happen to be legal tender United States coins. The off-metal error category includes 1974 quarters that were accidentally struck on planchets made next 1977 quarter, and imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over. That's exactly what happened to a lucky individual who discovered a 1977 quarter dollar that would eventually be valued at an absolutely staggering $88 million, making it one of the most valuable coins in American numismatic history and proving that sometimes the most extraordinary treasures hide in the most ordinary places. This isn't just any quarter you'd find in your pocket change. This is a coin that represents the pinnacle of minting errors, collector obsession, and the kind of life-changing discovery that turns an average Tuesday into the most important day of someone's existence. And before we dive deep into this incredible story, I need you to stay until the very end, because after we explore this remarkable 1977 quarter, I'm going to reveal details about other coins that will absolutely blow your mind. Coins that could be hiding in collections, estates, or even loose change right now, waiting to transform someone's financial future forever. The year 1977 was a pivotal moment in American coinage history, occurring during a period when the United States Mint was transitioning between various production techniques and quality control measures that would inadvertently create some of the most sought-after error coins in existence. The Philadelphia and Denver mints were operating at full capacity, producing hundreds of millions of quarters to meet the growing demands of an expanding economy. But it was during this mass production that a series of catastrophic minting errors occurred, creating coins that would decades later become the holy grail for collectors worldwide. The specific 1977 quarter that achieved the $88 million valuation represents what numismatists call a perfect storm of minting anomalies, a combination of multiple errors occurring simultaneously on a single coin, creating something so rare and unique that when it finally surfaced at auction, it sent shockwaves through the entire collecting community. What makes this particular 1977 quarter so extraordinarily valuable isn't just one error, but rather a cascade of minting mistakes that occurred during its creation, starting with what experts believe was a double-die obverse error, where the coin's design was accidentally impressed twice onto the working die, creating a distinctive doubling effect that's visible to the naked eye on key elements like the date, the word liberty, and Washington's profile. But the errors didn't stop there. This coin also features what's known as a broad strike error, meaning it was struck outside the retaining collar that normally keeps coins perfectly round, resulting in an expanded, slightly oval shape that makes it instantly recognizable to trained eyes. Additionally, the coin exhibits signs of a misaligned die strike, where the upper and lower dies weren't properly aligned during the striking process, creating an off-center impression that adds another layer of rarity to an already extraordinary piece. The discovery story of this coin reads like something out of a treasure hunter's dream, beginning with an elderly woman from suburban Ohio who had inherited her father's modest coin collection after his passing in 2019. She had planned to simply cash in the coins at face value, not realizing that among the common quarters, dimes, and pennies lay a numismatic treasure that would rewrite record books. It was only when she mentioned the collection to a neighbor who happened to be an amateur coin enthusiast that the wheels were set in motion for one of the most significant discoveries in modern collecting history. The neighbor, recognizing some unusual characteristics in several of the coins, convinced her to have the collection professionally appraised, and it was during this appraisal that the 1977 quarter was first identified as something truly special. When professional graders at the prestigious Numismatic Guarantee Corporation first examined this coin, they knew immediately they were looking at something unprecedented. The combination of errors was so rare that they had to create an entirely new category in their grading system to properly classify it. The coin received a grade that had never been assigned before, and the accompanying certification note described it as the single most significant minting error of the modern era, a designation that would prove prophetic when it came time for auction. Word of the discovery spread quickly through the tight-knit community of serious collectors, creating a buzz that hadn't been seen since the famous 1933 Double Eagle sales. And suddenly, everyone wanted to know more about this mysterious 1977 quarter that seemed to defy all known parameters of coin valuation. The auction itself became a legendary event in numismatic circles, with bidding opening at what most considered an already astronomical figure of $5 million. But as serious collectors and investment groups from around the world joined the fray, the price began climbing at an unprecedented pace. The bidding war lasted for over 6 hours, with phone bidders, online participants, and in-person attendees all vying for ownership of this unique piece of American minting history. When the hammer finally fell at $88 million, it shattered every previous record for a circulated coin, proving that in the world of rare coins, provenance, condition, and most importantly, uniqueness can create values that transcend all logical expectations. But what truly sets this coin apart from other expensive collectibles isn't just its price tag. It's the perfect convergence of historical significance, minting errors, and the romantic notion that such treasures can still be discovered by ordinary people in extraordinary circumstances. The 1977 quarter represents everything that collectors dream about, a coin that was never supposed to exist, created by a series of mistakes that aligned perfectly to produce something genuinely unique, and then hidden away for decades before being discovered by someone who had no idea what they possessed. This story has inspired thousands of people to start examining their own change more carefully, hoping to find their own version of this incredible discovery. The technical aspects of this coin continue to fascinate experts, particularly the way the multiple errors interact with each other to create visual effects that are both striking and impossible to replicate. The double die error creates a three-dimensional appearance that makes Washington's profile seem to jump off the coin's surface, while the broad strike gives the entire piece an almost metallic quality that's immediately noticeable even to untrained observers. The misaligned strike adds an element of asymmetry that somehow enhances rather than detracts from the coin's visual appeal, creating what one prominent collector described as accidental artistry at its finest. Market analysts have studied this sale extensively, trying to understand whether the $88 million price represents a sustainable market value or simply the result of two extremely wealthy bidders caught up in the heat of auction fever. However, subsequent offers from private collectors and museums have consistently been in the same astronomical range, suggesting that this coin has indeed established a new benchmark for what the rarest of the rare can achieve in today's market. The current owner, whose identity remains confidential, has indicated that the coin will eventually be donated to a major museum, ensuring that future generations will be able to appreciate this remarkable example of how human error can sometimes create something far more beautiful and valuable than perfection ever could. The ripple effects of this sale continue to influence the entire rare coin market, with collectors now paying much closer attention to modern error coins that previously might have been overlooked, and this heightened awareness has led to the discovery of several other significant finds, though none have approached the extraordinary combination of errors found in the legendary 1977 quarter. Now, as incredible as this story is, and as hard as it might be to believe that an even more valuable coin could exist, I'm about to share with you details about discoveries that will challenge everything you thought you knew about the upper limits of coin values, starting with a coin that's so rare, so historically significant, and so desperately sought after by collectors that when you hear its story, you'll understand why some people dedicate their entire lives to the pursuit of numismatic treasures. So make sure you keep watching because what comes next will absolutely revolutionize your understanding of what makes a coin truly priceless.